Today we have 3 disturbing stories from people's childhoods that are nightmare fuel. Story 1. The Boy in the Window. There's something about the windows of an old house that always seem to remember. When Sarah was little, her family moved into a 2-story home on the edge of a small Midwestern town. A house that creaked like it was still waking up from a long sleep. The front window of her bedroom faced the street. The glass was warped, slightly fogged from decades of storms. And at night, it reflected just enough light from the street lamp to make the shapes outside look alive. It started one winter evening when Sarah was 7. Her mother was tucking her in when Sarah pointed toward the window and asked, "Who's that boy?" Her mother froze. "What boy?" she asked. Sarah said there was a boy standing in the yard watching. Her mother looked. Nothing was there. She laughed it off, kissed Sarah goodnight, and turned off the light. At 2 a.m., Sarah woke again. The room was freezing. The curtains swayed even though the window was shut. She pulled them aside, and the boy was still there. Standing at the edge of the yard, pale, barefoot, wearing old-fashioned clothes. He didn't move. He just stared up at her with eyes that didn't catch the light. The next morning she told her father, who smiled and said she must have dreamed it. But that night she heard tapping on the glass, soft at first, then more insistent. When she looked, there were small handprints on the inside of the window, as though someone had pressed their palms against it from within. For weeks it continued, tapping, faint laughter outside her door, the sound of small footsteps in the hallway at night. Once, her little brother said he saw the same boy sitting on the stairs, watching their mother cook. He described the same white shirt, the same bare feet. Their parents finally brought in a contractor to check the old windows. When he removed the outer frame of Sarah's bedroom window, he found something wedged between the wooden panels, an old photograph. In it, 2 children stood in the front yard of that very same house, smiling. One of them was unmistakably the boy from the window. The back of the photo read, "Elliot, 1929. Age 7. After that day, the window stopped tapping. But sometimes when the light hits the glass just right, Sarah swears she can see a faint reflection, another face beside her own, smiling through the decades. Story 2. Something under the covers. Maya never liked sleeping alone. Her parents said she had an overactive imagination, but the house didn't feel right after midnight. The air was too still, the shadows under the bed too deep. It always began the same way. She'd wake around 2 a.m. to the feeling of her blanket sliding slowly down her body. She thought it was a dream, until the night she felt fingers brushing her ankle. She bolted upright, heart pounding, staring into the dark. The blanket lay bunched at the end of the bed. She reached for her lamp. Nothing. The bulb had burned out. And in the faint light from the hallway, she could see the shape of someone crouched at the foot of her bed. Too scared to move, she closed her eyes tight and whispered for her mom. Footsteps creaked in the hallway. Relief washed over her until she heard her mother's voice from downstairs. The thing at the end of the bed shifted, crawling slowly backward until it slipped under the frame. The sound was like fabric dragging across wood. Maya leapt from bed and ran for the stairs, not daring to look back. Her parents searched the room, found nothing but dust. They said she must have imagined it. But the next night, the light under the door disappeared as soon as she turned off her lamp. Something was blocking it. And then came the breathing. Slow, measured just inches from the mattress. Weeks passed. She began sleeping with a flashlight clutched in her hand. Then one night she woke to feel the mattress sink beside her, as though someone had lain down. The air grew heavy, warm. She turned her head slightly and saw a dent in the pillow next to hers. Then the breathing started again, this time on her neck. Maya screamed. Her father rushed in, turned on the overhead light, and the pillow rose, flattening out as if nothing had been there. They moved her to her brother's room after that, and she never slept alone again. Years later, when she returned home for college break, she found her old room just as she'd left it. Out of curiosity, she shone a flashlight under the bed. Etched faintly into the wooden slats were tiny scratch marks, hundreds of them, clustered in the shape of two hands. Story number 3. Woman in the driveway. When Alex was 9, his family moved to a quiet suburb where the houses all looked the same. He loved walking his dog Scout each evening after dinner. Just him, the sidewalk, and the sound of cicadas under the streetlights. One evening the sky was that deep purple before night. As they turned the corner near an old driveway, Scout froze. His tail went stiff, ears back, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Alex followed the dog's gaze. A woman stood halfway down the driveway. She was small, frail, wearing a long gray dress that fluttered even though there was no wind. Her face was hidden by a wide-brimmed hat. She didn't move, just watched them. After a moment, she called out, voice thin and dry, asking to pet the dog. Alex's throat felt tight. Scout barked, jerking the leash violently, pulling back toward the street. The woman's head tilted, and Alex saw that her eyes were sunken, shadowed like bruises. He stammered something, "No, ma'am," and stepped backward. The woman took one slow step forward. Scout barked again, louder. Then, in a blink, she was gone. No retreat, no movement, just gone. The driveway empty, the air perfectly still. Alex ran home, dragging the dog. His parents searched the street but found nothing. The next day he returned with his father. The driveway was overgrown, the house dark and boarded up. A neighbor said no one had lived there in over 40 years. The last resident? An old woman who used to walk a black dog every night. They'd both been struck by a car on that very road. Years later, Alex still walks Scout's graveyard in his dreams. Only now, when he wakes, he swears he can hear the click of dog nails on the floorboards and the soft whisper of a woman's voice asking, "Can I pet him?" Story number 4. Man in the hallway. Reddit user Elector1, CBUBBA. When I was a kid, I vividly remember a period when I was very scared of going to the bathroom at night because of a man that would be standing in the hallway. When Isaac was 6 years old, his bedroom was supposed to be his sanctuary. A soft nightlight glowed by his window. Stuffed animals lined his shelf, and the family dog lay curled at the foot of his bed. But some nights, the house around him felt less like home and more like a stage for something waiting. It started with the hallway. Just beyond his bedroom door was a long stretch of wood plank floor, a single light at the far end. Isaac would drift into sleep, and at roughly the same moment each night, wake to the doorframe's shadow shifting. Half awake, he would spot a tall figure standing stock still in the threshold, broad-shouldered, head tilted slightly, eyes dark even in the light. He tried to convince himself it was a coat hanging or the furniture pushed aside, but it followed a schedule. 1 a.m. on the dot. Every time he blinked, the figure would remain in the same pose, on his door frame. His parents dismissed it as nightmares. "The nightlight's too dim," they said. "You're just startled awake." But Isaac knew the difference between a dream and a waking fear. This was awake. One night he rose from his bed and tiptoed past the frame. The hallway light flickered. The figure was gone. But as Isaac passed the first crack in the floorboards, he heard the softest exhale, like someone exhaling into darkness. He ran back, dove under his covers, and the door clicked shut behind him. After that, he refused to sleep with the door open. The dog moved to the hallway. The nightlight burned brighter. Still, at 1 a.m., Isaac would feel the air shift. Cold, silent. He'd hear a faint scrape from the doorframe. And in his imagination, or maybe something more real, he'd see the outline of feet, slippers, formless, standing there. One morning, his mother found scratch marks on the doorframe. A thin line 18 inches from the floor. Isaac swore he hadn't touched it. The dog wouldn't go near that door at night anymore. The figure eventually stopped appearing, or so Isaac believed. Years later, back in his childhood home for a visit, he walked the hallway at 1 a.m. The nightlight burned lower now, the house older. He paused at the crack in the floor, heart pounding. For a moment, he thought he sensed something move. Then, the door frame, the old scratch mark still faintly visible. The dog's urn, gone. Isaac left the hallway behind. But sometimes, when he lies awake at exactly 1 a.m. in adulthood, he still feels the shadow at his door, waiting